Alright, so this is going to be a Dizzy tutorial video. This is not, just like the Millia video, this is not going to be like a full tutorial from start to finish from scratch. This is meant to be a video that's helping people who have already played Eggs or Dizzy and are interested in picking up Dizzy in this version. So just as a transition point for people going from Exer to +R. So I'm mainly going to be focusing on what has changed, what hasn't changed, and like new moves, things like that. So in terms of playstyle, Dizzy is pretty much the same thing. As a character, she's kind of like a sort of like a zoning character. Like she has a lot of good long range moves. She has a lot of projectiles, and she has really good movement. And she's like above average speed. And she also has a double air dash, which is really nice. She even has a way to delay her air momentum with bubble. So, and if you look at her normals and her moveset, like she has only one move that's plus on block, like one normal is plus on block, and your main goal is to set up a fish or spear, and then when you do that, then your game plan actually starts. Then you can actually start to put on some offense. So she's kind of like that kind of character, kind of like a hybrid character where you run away a lot, but once something goes right, like when you have a summon, then you can start going in on your opponent. Now, Dizzy, in my opinion, in +R is one of the best characters to learn for a beginner, in my opinion. So there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, execution. She is a pretty easy character to play. Most of her important special moves have very simple inputs, okay? Quarter circles mostly. And you don't have anything like Chemical Love, right? And then the other thing, like her combo theory is pretty simple. Now, of course, if you want to be swag and you want to do like optimal combos, that's always going to require some practice. But for the most part with Dizzy, at a beginning level, you can just focus on just doing ground hit confirms into icespike, and that's good enough. So stuff like this, right? Almost every single important normal she has can combo to icespike, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the difficult stuff. As long as you focus on that, then you can kind of play her at a beginning level. The other thing is, other than easy execution, the FRCs. You really do not need FRCs with Dizzy. Like, her most important FRC is icespike, and while it's definitely nice to know it, you can totally get by without knowing any of her FRCs. So that's another good point, because FRCs are definitely one of the biggest hurdles for new players when we want to learn this game, since they're one of the things that require like a lot of practice and some rote memorization. So let's talk about the differences. The move that best defines Dizzy is Fish. So Fish in this game is really different. So unlike Exert, she still has the same fish, PKSHD Fish, but they're all very different. So the key big difference is the way that Fish works. Now Fish have a double input. So let me give you an example. Here's P Fish, okay? You can see it bites twice instead of 3 times in Exert. Now, one thing you're allowed to do in this game is you could do double Fish. So you do a fish and then you press another button, and then it does both those formations. So the laser fish is one that's pretty much the same. So I'm going to do PH. So watch what happens. 1, 2, and it turns into a laser. Yeah, so there's double fish in this game. So that gives you so many different possibilities for offense. It's pretty amazing. So in terms of properties, the fish are persistent. If you get hit, they stay out. They can absorb hits, so they make Dizzy's offense very strong. When Dizzy actually gets her offense started, she has some pretty strong mix-up. So a lot of people lump her in the same category as characters like Eno and Millia. Now, I wouldn't do that necessarily because, yeah, Dizzy's mix-ups are really good, but it's not really as difficult to block. Because Millia and Eno mix-up is borderline unreactable, right? Dizzy's mix-up isn't that hard to block, but what it is, though, is it's very safe, because Millia and Eno mix-up, a lot of times you can escape it by jumping, or by F-ding at certain points, by instant blocking. You have a lot of different options against it, even though they're really hard to block. But Dizzy's mix-up, when done right, she's safe, and the opponent really can't do much to counterattack. They just have to block the best they can. Okay, so in terms of fish, P-fish was different. It hits twice. K-fish is very different. This is what it does. Instead of 2 bites, it now bites several times in a row. It has a ton of hit stun. The move is amazing. K-fish is actually broken. S and H-fish work the same way. So S is a laser that goes in the air, while H is a laser that's on the ground. However, they have a new property where if it hits an airborne opponent, they send them flying, and if they're near a wall, then the opponent will get wall stuck. So let's demonstrate that here. See that? So Soul gets wall stuck. So that's insanely good. One of the issues with Dizzy and regular AC was that if you try to do fish mix-ups with H-Fish, then the H-Fish laser would actually ruin your knockdown. Well, that doesn't happen anymore because now the H-Fish just blows them away. Alright. And then there's the D-Fish. Now D-Fish works completely differently the way it works in Exert. Because D-Fish is kind of like an auto-guard thing, right? Like you hit it and then it would bite you. This is what D-Fish does in this game. Oh wait, that's not D-Fish. Wait, what? Okay. So it's a really, really big bite. The opponent blocks it, they get staggered, you get all the time in the world to follow up. If they block it, it's a level 5 move, so they're blocking for a very, very long time. So D-Fish is really strong. Also, the D-Fish leans back a bit before it bites. Why do I keep doing that? So because it leans back a bit, some like really sharp opponents will try to poke the fish and jump out before it hits them. It's really hard to do that against D-Fish since it like goes back, and sometimes it even goes off screen and people forget about it, but it's still there. Okay, so that's the first big thing, is fish. Also, you can't do it in the air. So yeah, that's one thing. You can't do air fish in this game. Next is spear. So in Exert, spear has two versions. There's an S version and an H version. And the S is the lightning spear and H is like the fire spear. There's no fire spear in this version. There's only an S version. However, the new thing is this. You can hold the spear and we let go, it goes off. That's really, really strong. So it's really strong as an anti-air, especially if the opponent is like right above you. But they have to be like above you, but not on top of your head, but like vertically really high, because you know it has a lot of startup, so you need to have time to set it up. One really common setup you can do, or common situation, is in neutral. You set up a spear, and then if you notice your opponent is like dashing at you, then let go of the spear, intercept them with 2P, and then the spear will connect and you get a combo off of it. So just imagine that Soul's dashing at me. I do this. Oh, that didn't combo, but it's usually. Hold on, usually you can combo it. Okay, I'm a scrub, sorry. Like that, okay? Yeah. So that's a situation that happens a lot in this game. You throw the spear out, you watch your opponents, and if they dash at you, then just stop them with 2P. If they get hit by it, then the spear hits them, and then you get some time to combo off of that. Alright, next is Bubble. Bubble has a new input in this game. Or not new input, it's more like Exert's new input, was the original one. So Bubble in Exert is a quarter circle in the air, 2-3-6. In this game, it's a 2-1-4. Okay, and there are 3 bubbles. In Exert, there's a regular water bubble and there's a fire bubble. There's no fire bubble in this game. They're all water bubbles, but they just go at different angles. So the P bubble stays in the air like that. And you saw what happened there? That's a new property in this game. Bubbles, if you don't pop them, because usually you pop them using projectiles or your normals, if you don't pop the bubbles, they'll actually blow up by themselves. Now that's insanely strong. So as a zoning tool, they just got even stronger because now you don't even have to touch them. They'll just blow up on their own. So the P bubble goes straight. The K bubble, goes downward slightly. And the S bubble goes down even more. Okay, if I did that correctly. And if it touches the ground, it actually bounces up. Alright, next up is icespike. So icespike is a different input in this game. In Exert, it's 236S. In this game, it's 236H and D. So H is basically the old icespike, works very much the same way. It's your main combo ender, one of her most iconic moves. Now the D icespike is different, it has more range. You can't even see it there because it's so far away. Yeah, D icespike has almost full screen range. It's actually kind of insane. Now, like I said, for Dizzy, the most important FRC is icespike, and it's really nice to know. It does unlock a lot of different options, but if you're trying to learn this character at like a beginner level, the semi-competent level, you can totally get by without knowing FRCs. Alright. Now, a different mechanic that doesn't exist in Exert that's in this game is called force breaks. So Dizzy has some pretty strong force breaks. The first up is this one. Force break spear. The way you do is you do a special move, and some special moves have like an upgraded version you can do by doing the same input but pressing the D button, and it ends up consuming 25% meter. So this is what FB spear looks like. That's absolutely insane. That's probably one of the best force breaks in the entire game. If you guys are familiar with vanilla AC and you watched like some of the old Team Stickbug, Accent Core tournaments and the commentary, you might be familiar with EX skills by Eddie. Well, they nerfed EX skills in this game, but what they actually did was they gave the old EX skills to Dizzy. So now it has full screen range. This move is absolutely ridiculous. Just do it. When you have meter, just do it. Like, the only time this move isn't good is when you're getting rushed down. But if you're not getting rushed down, just do it, and it'll put in work for you. The other good force break she has is Bubble. Force break Bubble has a different property. What it does is it homes in the opponent really fast, like that. And then when it blows up, you can't really tell from there, but the hitbox is bigger than a regular Bubble. So yeah, it's really, really good, especially if you're running away from the opponents or if you need like cover your landing. Really, really, really strong. Other new moves include a Coffin super. So in Exert, Dizzy has 2 supers. She's got the Imperial Ray, which she still has in this game. But she doesn't have that Mirror super, which is really interesting. So instead, she has the Coffin super. Okay. Does a lot of damage. This move is fully invincible, so Dizzy's defensive options are really, really bad. That hasn't changed. This is her only move that has startup invul. The way it works is it's actually unblockable. So as long... Oops, I messed up the inputs. As long as the opponent is standing in that little magic circle on the ground, they'll get hit by it. Now, keep in mind that even though it's unblockable, if they're in hit stun or block stun, it won't actually hit them. They have to be in like a neutral state or attacking you. So it's pretty strong. You mainly use it as a reversal if you're like really sure your opponent's gonna meet you. Now let's talk about different moves that change. So 2K first up. 2K is the same. Tail flip. One new thing it has in this game is a new Gatling. It Gatlings into 5H. Oops. That Gatling is absolutely insane. It is so good. It really, really increases her effective hit confirm range. Because in Exer, 2K only goes into Slash and 2D, at least in terms of useful Gatlings. So you can go to a lot of other things, but those are the main 2 that you use. So being able to go into 2Hs or to 5H is really, really nice. It also allows you to do stuff like this. Oops. That entire string is burst safe. So yeah, 2K going into 5H is really serious business. So yeah, that's a really important or a really nice quality of life change. Next up is Far S. So this move, her Far Slash. If you're from Exert, that move is going to look really weird to you because you're like, wait a minute, you just did 4S. That's not Far Slash. Yeah, so the Exert Far Slash where Necro like just slaps the opponent, that doesn't exist in this game. So she doesn't have a 4S. Instead, her Far Slash is her Exert 4S. Now, Far Slash, as you know, if you're familiar with this character, this move is the god, but it's also really bad. It's like amazing and terrible at the same time. This move is actually so unfair if used correctly. Like, especially if you have fish out and you have the right spacing, this move will win you games that you don't deserve. But at the same time, if you use it wrong, this move will also get you murdered. So that's one unfortunate thing about this version. One thing I really like about Exert is having this move be a separate button 4S, because it does happen sometimes where you want to do close slash, but you accidentally get 4S instead, and that just loses you the game. That really sucks. But that's one change. Next up is 2H. This move, very, very different, right? In Exert, that move hits twice and also launches the opponent up. In this game, it knocks him down. It does have an FRC, which is pretty useful sometimes. It's not jump cancelable. It's one hit. One nice gimmick you can do. Let's make Soul Block here, actually. Oh, actually, I'm in player. Let's go to enemy. Wait, what am I doing? There we go. Okay. So one property of 2H is that it's a normal, and you can only cancel it into a special. So you can't cancel into any other normals, only to a special. However, the cancel window is huge. So sometimes you can get away with this gimmick where you make your opponent block a 2H and make it look like you're unsafe. At the very, very last minute, cancel an icespike. And then if icespike is a counter hit, then you get a combo off of it. So this is what happens. This is what you do. You see that? So I didn't cancel icespike immediately. I waited a little bit. I made it look like, that I was vulnerable. And then if Soul pressed buttons there, then he would have gotten hit by the icespike. Now, of course, you can't always do this gimmick, right? If you keep doing it, eventually your opponents will catch on. So this little gimmick is much stronger if you're very good, if you know the icespike FRC. It's even stronger if you know that, because then if you icespike and your opponent blocks, then you can FRC and still do stuff afterwards. So that's a nice gimmick in this game. Let's make Soul not block anymore. Alright, next new move is 6H. In 6H, in Exert, 6H is a one-hit move that can be charged. It's very, very important for getting big damage combos. In this game, 6H sucks. Sorry, it's not very good. This is what it looks like. It's like this big like tail launcher. You don't really use it in combos ever. The only time you use this move is like if you're trying to like DP punish. And so it launches the opponent, hits twice, does a lot of damage, and it's jump cancelable. So this is what you do basically. Oops, I didn't mean to throw soul there. Alright, something like that. That did a ton of damage, right? So you only do this if like your opponent whiffed a DP and you have a lot of time to like get as much damage as you can. The problem though is that the move launches them and you can't get a knockdown. So a lot of times, you know, even if you do get a DP punish, you'd rather just do a combo to icespike, because even though it does less damage, it does give you a better mix-up opportunity. So 6H is not very good in this game. You'll generally only really use it if like if you think the extra damage is like going to win the round for you. Otherwise, it's just better to just combo to icespike. Alright, next new move is 2D. So 2D looks exactly the same. She just face plants on the ground. However, the range is greatly nerfed. Or not really nerfed, but I guess, yeah. The range is less compared to Exert. So 2D is less useful in this game, generally. Since the range is quite a bit less. It's also jump cancelable for some weird reason. It doesn't really make sense, right? Because she's like face planting. Why exactly can she cancel that with a jump? I don't really understand, but yeah. She can do that. So that covers the ground moves that are different. Let's talk about air moves. Most of her air moves are actually really similar or unchanged. The one new move she has is J2S. So this move doesn't exist in Exert. This is what it looks like. This move is actually amazing. It has cross-up hitboxes, so it'll hit your opponent from behind, like that. It has some it has this weird property where it's actually throw invul. So if your opponent tries to air throw you when you're in the air, they will actually just get hit. You cannot air throw Dizzy J2S for some weird reason, so that's really nice. And then the other thing is J2S, especially doing from IED, it's a really important part of doing her some like fish setups. And against some characters, if you do like a perfect IED, like the fastest possible or lowest possible IED into the fastest possible J2H, or J2S rather, that's actually an overhead on some characters. Like it'll hit some characters when they're crouching. I think Soul is one of those characters, but okay, I'm not really bad doing that. I can't execute today, sorry. Something like that, right? So that was not a perfect ID, but if you just pretend that it was, then if I did J2S and Soul was crouching, would have hit him, and then you combo into JH, and then you get in combo after that. You can do a follow-up combo after that when you land on the ground. Okay. Last change is her air throw. Her air throw looks very different in this game. It's actually better in some ways, so this is what it looks like. Let's make Soul jump. There we go. Okay, so the opponent gets, you get a big wall bounce. Now, the new thing about air throw in this game is that you can actually combo off it in most situations, okay? So, in this situation, I'm going to throw Soul to the other side of the screen. You can combo into D-icespike in this situation. Like that, okay? That's really nice. In other situations where you're a little bit closer, you combo into dash 2p far slash icespike. So yeah, that's really serious business. That's really good. It gives you some extra damage off your air throws, because in Exert, you can't do that. Alright, so that covers everything that changed about Dizzy. Now let's talk about fish setups. Now, Dizzy is kind of like a setup-based character, so for new players, it can be really daunting to learn her, because it probably seems like there's like infinite number of setups you have to learn, right? Like so many different videos to study and just to learn all this notation, and it seems really overwhelming. And you know, it's true, honestly. There's no getting around it. It's definitely true. However, Fish is amazingly strong in this version, and I would say that even though there's a lot of setups, that's part of the fun of the character, right? Just learning all these different setups and coming up with some yourself. Even though there's a lot of setups, I would say there's only really 3 that you need to focus on. So we're going to do that next. We're going to talk about fish setups to focus on as a new player. So the first setup that I think is really important that you can learn, that you should focus on as a new player, is KD. This is what it looks like. Oops, I'm really bad at input, sorry. So you first get the multi-bites of the K-fish, followed by the D-fish. Now, the good thing here, the reason why this is my #1 most recommended setup to learn for new players, is K and D-fish both have a ton of hit stun and block stun. So that means you get ample time to hit confirm them. Okay, so the way the KD setup works is you do KD, and then you meet your opponent with either 5k or 2k, and then cancel it into a spear, and then after that you do some kind of mix-up. So in terms of situation as to when this works, you can do this anytime you knock down your opponent in the corner. So like if you do a combo ice spike in the corner like this. Oops. Like that, right? So corner combo into knockdown, you can do it. If you're mid-screen, you can do it off a throw. Like that. And then if you know how to do the icespike FRC, whenever you comment on icespike mid-screen, and then if you FRC it, then you have enough time to dash and set up the KD fish. Alright, so those are the 3 situations that you can set this up. Now, I also did mention that you can do off throw. Most of the time when people throw, they just decide to combo off. Oops. Most of the time when people throw, they just decide to combo off throw like that. So you can decide to not do that and instead just dash and do KD setup. It just depends what you want to do. Like, do you want to do more damage or do you want to get like a really good mix-up? And then of course, if you know the icespike FRC, then you can do both. Okay, so this is what the setup looks like. So do KD, all right, and then do either 5k or 2k into the spear, and don't hold it, just let it go immediately. All right. So the first thing I want to show you guys is what happens if they get hits. The purpose of throwing out the 5k or 2k, you're not throwing it out expecting your opponent to get hit by it. The point is to make your opponent sit still, so it should be a meaty. You make him sit still so that they then block the K-fish afterwards. But let's say for some reason your opponent isn't blocking, they get hits. Well, this is how you follow it up. This is how you combo off of it if they get hit. Oh, I messed up there, sorry. Why am I'm so bad, sorry. Okay, and that's what you do. Alright. I was trying to do the other hit confirm where you do 2k 2p, but I was like, I don't know. I guess I must be high right now or something. I can't do it. Alright, so that's what you do if they get hits, which is probably not going to happen because they're most likely going to block, right? Now, here's what happens if they don't get hit, they block. So when they block, then you go for the mix-up. What you do is you jump, and then you do, and then you go into like a KOF style mix-up where you either do land, like empty jump low, or at the very, very last second before you land, you do air dash J2S for the high. So let's make Soul block now. Let's show the type. Let's do this. Okay, so that's what happens if for the high version. So you do jump, and then you do J2S JH, and if Soul got hit by it, then after you do the JH, then you just land common ice spike. All right, now here's the low option. Oh, I messed up. Sorry. I'm really bad at this. I'm really, really bad at this. Sorry. Okay, like that. So that'll be the low option. Now, there's actually one more thing you could do. This one, I'm gonna make Soul get hit just to demonstrate how this works. There's actually a cross-up option, which is a little more gimmicky, but sometimes you can catch people off guard with this. You can only do this mid-screen, by the way. So I did mention the KD can work in the corner. Well, this is not going to work in the corner. So this KD setup only works mid-screen when you can actually cross-up your opponent. So what you do is you still jump after the spear, but what you do is instead of doing a late air dash, you do an early air dash. And what happens is you cross-up your opponents, and then if they don't block correctly, the D-fish hits them, and then you have time to follow up with a combo. So this is what it looks like. Okay, why do I keep messing it up? I don't understand. Okay, so you see what happened there? We crossed up Soul, he didn't block correctly, then he got bitten by the D-fish, he gets staggered, and then we have time to follow it up into some damage and a knockdown. Okay, so that's the most important setup to learn. It's really, really strong and very, very easy to do. You get a lot of, even though I messed up a lot, I don't know why I'm talking shit here, but yeah, it's very, very easy to do, and you get a lot of time to hit confirm off stuff. Okay, now here's another variation. This one is very similar. You still do KD, but now instead of doing 5k or 2k into spear, just do 5k and jump. So this is what it looks like. Like that, okay? You just jump, so you don't do spear. Now, the mix-up in this case is a little bit different. You end up crossing over your opponent most of the time. So if you want to go for the high, this is what it looks like. Wait, I did not do that correctly, sorry. Why am I... Hold on, I'm not... For some reason, I'm not doing that correctly. What happened? Why am I not doing this correctly? Okay. So if you're kind of far away, you can just do kick, and then do a late air dash J2S, JGH for the high. And then if you want to do the low... Oops. Alright. If you want to do the low, that's how you combo off of it. And let me see if I can do that again, because I know most of the time you end up jumping over the opponents. There we go. Okay. So most of the time when you do that setup without the spear, if you jump forward, you end up jumping over them. So for your high option, what you do is you do air backdash J2S for the high. And then after that, the D-fish bites him, and you get to combo off of that. Okay, so that'll be the first big setup is KD. All right, the next of the three big setups I think every new player should focus on is HK, and this is a setup that only works in the corner. Okay, so this setup you can do anytime you land a combo that leads in the corner. So like if you land an icespike knockdown in the corner, so something like this, that's HK. So you throw a laser fish, and then the HK, and then the K fish comes and bites him afterwards. So this is a setup that should be very familiar to expert players, because you can kind of do this. You just do the H fish. So the laser happens first. So this is what happens basically. The two variations. To start off, when you do HK, your options are dash 2K for a low. It's like this. Oh, I can't do inputs today. Sorry. Okay, so that's how you combo off of it. If after the 2K low they get hit, you do that. And then once your opponent starts respecting the low, then you can just toss them. Like you don't even have to do a meaty. You just throw them right before the laser goes off. So you do something like this. Like that, right? Alright, so that's just two options. It doesn't seem that strong. Now what you do next, the next layer is you do IED J2S into a high-low mix-up. So this is even more effective against characters who get hit crouching by Dizzy's IED J2S. But the main purpose of the IED J2S is not to actually hit the opponent, is to make them block. And the really, really good parts about corner setups with HK is that this is completely DP safe. So if the opponent is a character who has a character who has a DP like Soul, then if they DP, your fish is going to tank the hit for you, and you'll just be unharmed. So you just have all the time in the world to just punish your opponent when they land. So what we do is, in the corner, we do this, HK, IDJ2S, and then we do either a high or low when we land. So this is what it looks. Here's the high option. The high option is IDJ2S, and then right when you're about to land, do an air dash J2H, JH. Here's how we do it. I messed up, sorry. Okay, so if it hits, that's how you combo off of it. Here's a low option. Okay, so the low option is you land, do 2K5S. Alright, pretty simple setup. K-Fish has a lot of hit stuns, so you get a lot of time to confirm if your hit landed or not. Now, the last setup I'm going to talk about is mid-screen, and this is not even a mix-up, actually. This is just a setup you can do off certain hits. So, this setup is 214 HH or HD. And this setup is generally used mid-screen. So, a lot of times, if you land a mid-screen knockdown ice spike like this, like that, okay? So, this happens a lot, like, if you don't have meter or you don't know the ice spike FRC. So in this kind of situation where you ice spike him and they're really far away mid-screen, you can't really set up a mix-up here. So instead of setting up a mix-up, what you do is you just try to get as much familiars on the screen as possible. So what you do is you do either HH or HD. So that starts out with an H laser followed by another laser or a bite. And then what you do is then you set up a spear. So then that gives you a ton of coverage, right? You have fish plus spear. So it covers a lot of space and it forces your opponent to move into certain areas of the screen. And then if you want to be aggressive, you can try to intercept them. Or you can sit back and wait for your opponent to come to you and then try to intercept them when they run at you. So again, this is how it works. Like that, right? So that's really, really strong coverage. So what I did there was I did HD. So this is, HD would be considered to be the defensive setup. So you have an H-fish laser, and then it's also backed by D-fish. So if your opponent manages to get in on you, then you have the D-fish, covering your back. It might bite them out of their combo. And then you also have a spear covering you as well. So that's what you do mid-screen. Just for the defensive version, oops, HD, spear, and just wait. Like that, okay? Now, if you want to be aggressive, then instead of HD, what you use is HH. Okay, HH covers a lot of space, but if your opponent does end up rushing you down afterwards, then you don't really have that D-fish on her back anymore. So this is the HH setup. And then what you can do is you can dash forward and set up a spear if you'd like. Or the other thing that happens a lot of times in this kind of situation, when you get a mid-screen knockdown with HH, your opponent will oftentimes try to jump to get out of the way of the laserfish. So there's actually two different ways you can intercept jumps. So let me show you guys the first one. I messed that up, sorry. Okay. So the first way to intercept jumps is after you do HH, what you want to do is you want to do IDJH. So let's make Soul jump now. And let's make him block. Okay, see what happened there? So we did IDJH, Soul blocked, or he chicken blocked, and then he blocks her JH, and then he gets dragged down to the ground, and then the laserfish makes him block again. So in this situation, we then have frame advantage, and we can get closer to him, and we can just continue pressure. Like that, see? And then we're still backed up with, or we still have our back covered with a H-fish laser there. So that's one thing you could do. Right? Something like that. So that's one setup you can do. Now, another thing you can do, other than IDJH, is you can also do dash into rising JSJP. And then if your opponent jumps and they block, then they'll be forced to block your JS and JP, and then they'll block the laser afterwards. And then right before you land, you have a chance to go for a high-low mix-up. So this is what it works. This is how it works. Let me see if I can set this up. Oops. Okay, let's actually not do that, sorry. Please sit down, Soul, 1 second. Alright, now let's make him jump again. So I'm gonna do the high option first. So for the high option, you do HH, and then you do the JSP, and then right before you land, do air dash J2HJH. Like that, right? Okay, so that's the high option. And then here comes the low option. Let's make him sit down again. Oh no, I messed up. Sorry. Let's do that again. Why can I not do that combo? I did not time that correctly, sorry. Like that, okay? So the low option is you do JSP, and then after your opponent blocks the laser, then you just land and do 2K 5S. Okay, so those three setups I mentioned, KD, HK in the corner, and HH or HD mid-screen, those are the three setups that I would say that, that if you're feeling overwhelmed as a new player at all the possibilities for Dizzy setups, focus on those three first, and then once you get them down, then start branching out to like more complicated setups. All right. So I think that about covers it. I think I've covered all the basic Dizzy stuff. So, if you guys want to see any more about this, like I think I mentioned this in the last video also, but if you guys want to see like a combo tutorial, I can do that too. So let me know in the comments if you guys want to see more. But yeah, I think we covered all the important Dizzy stuff. So yeah, I hope this was a helpful tutorial on learning Dizzy for people who are familiar with how this character works in Exert and want to know how she works in this game, ++.